Hey, this is Tokyo Monster Kahagas, and you're listening to Live and in Color with Wolfie D.
Hey, this is Jimmy Street, host of the Live and in Color with Wolfie D podcast. Hear the life and times of professional wrestler Wolfie D. From his time in the territories with PG-13 to his time in WWE, ECW, WCW, TNA, and more. Nothing is off limits and nothing will be held back. Thanks again for tuning in. Here he is, Wolfie D.
All right, welcome once again to Live and in Color with Wolfie D and my man Jimmy across the street. What's going on, my man?
Not much, brother. How you doing today?
Oh, just hobbling around. I'm better though, Jimmy. I'm pretty much switched to the cane at this point where I don't need the walker.
Nice.
So that's an improvement.
Yeah, for sure.
The pain's not near as bad as it was, so yeah, it's all good. I'm gonna quit bitching about it now. Thanks. I just had to get through that part, man. Like I told you, Jerry Lynn told me. He said first 2 weeks are hell, brother. Yeah, and he wasn't lying. So.
Yeah, I mean, he nailed it, right? Because you're kicking out right about 2 week mark. So it's awesome. I mean, I've noticed you've been out on the town a few times visiting friends and stuff. So, you know, there's light at the end of the tunnel, right?
yeah, sure is, man.
Showing off that new hip. Yeah.
Got a couple of events coming up at the beginning of March. Chase Stevens and I are doing March the 8th, Friday, March the 8th in Glasgow, Kentucky at the Crow's Nest. It's a bar. We're going to be doing a thing, you know, kind of like a comedy gimmick, kind of like a storytelling gimmick that some of the guys are doing. And I think me and Chase will be pretty funny. I hope anybody in the area comes out and sees it. And then the very next night, I've got a show at Caverna High School that's in Horse Cave, Kentucky, and I'll be signing autographs along with Scott Steiner. And
nice.
Chase is actually on the show. I believe Hillbilly Jim is going to be there too. But more news to come on that show as I get everything solidified there. I'm kind of helping out on that one, so. More news to come on that, so
stay tuned. And this Chase comedy show that you're doing, this is postponed from February 2nd, was the original date. So don't go to that location on February 2nd expecting Wolfie and Chase. You know, you may have heard him talk about it in a previous episode. Now it's been delayed because of the surgery, and so it's postponed. So don't go on February 2nd expecting Wolfie and Chase. So
thank you for that. I had to change it just because I didn't think that by that date I would be in good enough shape to where I could sit there comfortably, or stand, or both, or whatever I need to do.
Right. No, and that makes sense. And I mean, you want to be in as good a condition as you can, just so you can focus on the stories and not have to worry about how you're sitting and stuff.
Exactamundo.
Yeah, very cool.
But speaking of good shows, today should be another one of ours. The Tokyo Monster Kahagas.
Yeah, I'm excited. Dude, I've always loved this gimmick. Been a fan of it since I met the dude at NWA Saw way back in the day. And yeah, man, he was the first guy I ever saw, that let me see his NWA heavyweight title, which was rad, so.
That probably would have been the night he worked me.
I'm sure it was. Yeah.
And that was in 2012. I want to say.
Yep. So very cool. Yeah.
12 years ago.
Wow. Yeah.
It kind of seems that long ago. Kind of don't, but
it does. It does.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that, man. Yeah. I've told the story about that before, and then I'm sure me and he'll talk about it. But I enjoyed that match, and it was cool, man. And like I said, I respected him as a worker, and glad to have him on today. It should be something new.
Very cool.
I think we have a good variety of guests. You know what I mean?
Yes, we do. And that's the whole point. We don't have the same old guests that you've heard 100 times, and we like to pride ourselves on that. And we thank you all for listening and enjoying those new guys and guys that don't always come on a podcast, So, so many different types of wrestlers, you know what I mean? So It's the beauty of it, right? So
it's the birdie.
I mean, we did have a great episode with Rudy Boy Gonzalez. Thought that was a great episode, and you know, he had some great stories. Fidel Sierra is one of my favorite episodes in a long time. I mean, it was a great show. So y'all are clearly listening to those. So I know you'll enjoy this one today too. This one's gonna be a fun one. You know, did you watch? You said you watched the Royal Rumble, right? Did you enjoy it?
I watched some of it. I was over at Rod Hicks' house, collar and elbow, my man, and he had a little get together. There's quite a few people there, and I watched the girls Rumble, and then I wasn't paying too much attention after that.
Got it.
You know, everybody talking and stuff like that. But the girls Rumble, it was good, and I'm not gonna lie, man, sugarcoated. Oh, it was awesome. I've seen a lot of people say that it was the best of the night or whatever. I didn't see the rest of the night, like I said, but I thought there was some good surprises and good little spots and things like that. But overall, man, I felt like it was a little sloppy. A lot of like missed strikes, as you call them now, and just stuff looked a little weak to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm biased. I don't know. But
did you see your?
I like the girl stuff now, but it just looked a little sloppy on some things.
So you saw your friend showed up, Jordan Grace. She was in there.
That, man.
I was surprised she didn't show up in the men's as well, since she's an intergender wrestler. You know. So
she's so
it's kind of crazy.
Did against her husband. So.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but it was a little crazy. She shows up and everybody's like, "Holy crap!" And it's like TNA champion on WWE. You know, so that probably spells a future working relationship, in my opinion. I don't know. It may.
It looks like it.
You know, but I think that's kind of cool. So.
It is. I mean, so will TNA be the new like FCW or OVW, or you know what I'm saying? Is it going to be like a growing ground to where it was NXT, but NXT's kind of made their own shit now, you know? A lot of people actually like NXT more than they do WWE. So
I know.
TNA going to be the new, farm team?
You know, so I remember back in the day, something was working when Christian was going into the TNA Hall of Fame, Christian from Christian and Edge, and they did some kind of trade where somebody from TNA did something on WWE or WWE, vice versa. I'm feeling like this was something to do with maybe possibly somebody going into the TNA Hall of Fame for TNA. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I mean, you know, CM Punk is back. Maybe it's CM Punk. You know, I still think they need to put America's Most Wanted and the New Church in before they put anybody else in, but maybe they're doing some kind of trade. I don't know. Maybe it was just a solid from, you know, hey, look, we want to work with another promotion, but it can't be AEW, and you know, they own Ring of Honor and we own NXT, so I mean, TNA's kind of the one, and maybe it was just that, maybe, who knows, but I almost feel like there's going to be something paid back. Maybe TNA will get a WWE wrestler for some reason, but who knows?
And you said CM Punk real quick before we get Kahagas on here. You said Punk, and I'll say Rod texted me the day after the Rumble. He's like, "You called it." And that's because I said he was going to get hurt. Not that I was wishing it on him.
Sure.
I had a funny feeling for some reason, and it's bad because I know he did exactly what I did. I don't know if it's a complete rupture. They said a triceps tear.
Right.
You know, it could be a partial or it could be a complete tear that mine did. And it ain't no fun. I saw him saying 4 to 6 weeks, and I'm thinking, no.
Yeah, I
know they got great doctors and all that stuff, but my ass was in a cast for longer than 4 to 6 weeks. So, you know, he'll have to rehab it after that. And even if he wants to come back after that, because I'm telling you, that's not it's not a tough recovery, but it ain't no fucking fun. I can tell you that.
Right. And I mean, that probably spells no WrestleMania for him, right?
I would imagine.
Man, Yeah, that's brutal, and that sucks for anybody. But I did see something happen, and I'm like, man, wait a second, and then boom, tore his triceps. So I mean, it's just funny that you've also done that, and you're, okay. So let's just pretend when Wolfie D tore his at Royal Rumble, let's just pretend like you tore it at Royal Rumble. Would you have been ready for WrestleMania?
No, man, not unless I had the greatest doctors and all that stuff like they do, and new stem cells and I don't know, what I mean? They've got a lot of options there, but it's no easy recovery to come back from. I'm telling you, man, when I got my cast off finally, because they kept every 2 weeks I would have a new one where they'd move my arm more. It started out straight, ended up in more than a 90-degree angle, and so that's to stretch the muscle out. Then you got to do the therapy and stuff. And I'm telling you, it was quite a while before I could even, at my gym that I went to at the time, they had a basketball court and everything. I could not even get a free throw to the rim. I mean, my arm was that weak, plus it hurt like hell when I do it, just trying to shoot the basketball up. So,
wow. Yeah. That's crazy. Well, we wish a speedy recovery to Punker. And, I say instead of waiting on him to get better, let's go ahead and get Kahagas on here. What do you say?
Let's do that.
All right. Sounds good. We'll be right back after these messages with the Tokyo Monster.
With threats to our nation waiting around every corner, adaptability is more important than ever. When conditions change without notice, quick strategic thinking is crucial. And with obstacles consistently impending, determination is essential in overcoming them. It's this willingness, decisiveness, and resilience that sets Marines apart. With our fighting spirit, we don't just fight battles, we win them. Marines are the constant our nation counts on to fight the unknown. And through adaptable problem solving, we do just that. Learn more at Marines.com.
Hey folks, to get your official Live It in Color with Wolfie D merchandise, go to ProWrestlingTees.com/Live Wolfie D. Check it out.
If you're listening to Live It in Color with Wolfie D on Apple Podcast and like what you're hearing, go ahead and leave a 5-star rating. And while you're at it, write a review. Tell us what you liked. Tell us what you'd like to hear in the future. It's very important to us and always appreciated. Thanks again.
All right, folks, we're back, and we got another, as I always say, another cool guest, man. This guy, the first time I met him, they brought him into NWA Saw, Jimmy. I know you remember that. And,
yeah.
It was really cool, man. They built it up. They let me kind of build the angle to bring him in, and we did some good stuff. And then the night of the match, if you'll recall, I had the band that did my intro music. I had them set up on the stage and everything. And, for the little building that Saw was, man, it was packed out and everybody was with it, man. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce the Tokyo Monster Kahagas. What's up, my man?
Hey, guys. How you doing today, brother?
We're doing
well. Can't complain. If I did, nobody would give a shit. You know how that goes.
Yeah, I heard your little intro when we were talking about the match we had, and it's funny, you mentioned about that band, and it just popped in my head. I forgot about that, and I was just like, I remember that fucking entrance. I was like, that motherfucker just took it.
And that match, man, that match was it was good, man. It was fucking good, man. Yeah. And I remember this. I don't know if you recall, I really didn't know who you were, and I don't think you really knew who I was. And it was kind of like, I remember
knew who you were, of course. I mean, but I realized most people, I said, I know who you were, of course, but I realize to this day, people still don't know who the hell I am. Look at it. Brother, I look at it, if my neighbors don't know who the fuck I am, what the fuck is that?
But I say that and not being an egomaniac or anything.
No, I get it, bro. I get it.
When I switched over from being Wolfie into Slash, there was a number of people that I was close to in the business that hadn't seen me in a minute and had no clue. There's still people to this day that go, man, I didn't realize you were the same person as Wolfie D. I didn't know Slash and Wolfie D were the same. So it's just kind of funny in that situation. And then I remember you came in and you were like, man, my shoulder's kind of messed up, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, fuck, what, we've got to have this match. Both of us at our best, you know what I'm saying? And so, but yeah, man, we went out there and had a hell of a match. And I really enjoyed it, man. It was good, real good. I appreciate it.
That. It was like one of the top 10 matches that ever happened in the Sawmill.
No, that's awesome to hear. You know, I mean,
yeah,
it's always nice
I think it was. Yeah,
good stuff like that.
And Jimmy, I don't know. I would give it higher than top 10. I'd give it top 5.
Hey, I'm good with that.
Yeah, no, I'm comfortable with that, bro. I ain't gonna complain coming from you. I mean, no, but my shoulder, that whole entire NWA run, I had one arm. Really, one arm. Yeah, from the national reign, the beginning of the national reign till the end. I still suffer from it. I mean,
yeah.
But it was bad, bro, back then. I do recall that. I'll never forget that. That's how I worked basically one arm.
Yeah,
to an extent for a good period.
Right.
Yeah.
And if anybody listening hasn't seen that match, it's on YouTube. I think it's under like an Assassin versus Kahagas. I think that's what it's under, but you should check that match out. Definitely. It was really cool. And just saying that and talking about your shoulder and the whole run and everything, I know that had to be, because that was a time when, man, they were sending you here, sending you there, and you had to, and that was my thinking too. I was like, man, I know he's run into some idiots, man, and had to do this with people that ain't worth even him being in the ring with them, and I'm thinking, I hope he don't think I'm one of them, but I know you had to run into some real goose.
Bro. It's no different to today.
Yeah.
I could work you to tomorrow than work a guy that's in a match, the next day. It's still like that, but, you're there to do your job and do the work. And my job was to go in, and regardless whatever outcome it was, my whole goal is to whoever that is I'm working, they have to be over and equivalent to me before I leave, win, lose, or draw,
Right.
And so you just, you got to work with what you got.
Yeah, for sure. And man, I've always, I loved Muda when I was a kid. I like Kabuki. I like all that. And I love your gimmick, man. You can tell you put money into your gear and the whole, just the whole look. I like that, man. And I just, for some reason, have always been a mark for that style of gimmick. And having said that, man, I thought it was cool, actually, and kind of a breath of fresh air when you said to me the other day when we were talking about doing this, and you said, hey man, can we put something over my face or whatever so I can kind of keep the mystique alive? And that's cool, man, because that's kind of like, you're still kayfabing the gimmick, and I love that, man. I really like that you think that way.
Well, I kind of, I got into the business a lot different than most, especially, these days. And I never even realized there was independent wrestling, bro. I never even knew until I went to my first show. Honest to God. And I've even stated, I'll never forget it because it was I never had a gimmick in the beginning. I was just Kahagas, nothing special. Everything just kind of, you just pick things up and start investing into a gimmick, and it was just, I went out there, 500 people in the Leesburg Armory. Mm-hmm. First match ever. We went through the middle of the ring. The ring broke to the floor. It wasn't just shit falling. We went to the floor, bro.
Oh God.
And to this day, I still recall it as the worst independent show I've ever been on in my entire life. But, like I said, there's 500 people there, so you're kind of thrown off by it. And then a few months later, I went to work for another company here in Florida, and there was about 11 people in the crowd, and then I realized this is independent wrestling.
This is independent wrestling. Oh, man. Hey, Jimmy, hot tag.
Thank you for the hot tag. And one thing I've always enjoyed about you, Kahagas, is I felt like you are one of the like your gimmick leans itself to this style, but I've always been a huge fan of your strikes and kicks. I think like that is some of the most underrated things you can have as a pro wrestler, but you really are really good at those. Is that just part of you? Did that come along during the path, or was that just something you naturally had?
Well, I don't know if any of us naturally have anything.
Sure.
But when I like I stated a little earlier, when I got in the business, things were a little different. I got involved with, I came involved with Tyree Pride and a lot of a few retired independent wrestlers in my area. Yeah. And even the former sheriff was a wrestler, and he had an Orange Grove, and he had an old ass wrestling ring. And it took me a couple years just to find a way in, and finally I went out there, and they just mauled me, bro. I mean, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, and these are full grown men, and they're just kicking my ass, and me, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, so I go back and do it again, and I remember many nights of coming home and laying on that couch just fucking hurting, and then thinking, what the fuck am I doing? Do I want to do this? But then I feel a little better the next day, and I go do it again,
Yeah.
But our ring wasn't even considered really a ring. It was, when I first stepped out there, the floor of the ring was level with the sand because it was sunk into the grove so long. And the bottom rope, I stepped on the bottom rope and it just broke. So rusted the cable. So, and the ring was slanted, right? Because it's sunk. They had an old boxing canvas on there.
Oh,
so when they do shit to me, like, I slide out of the fucking ring into the dirt shit,
Yeah.
So it was just, and with being around those guys and Tyree, which Tyree was he was a big Florida guy back in the day. And I always was a big fan of Tyree as a kid growing up, and just fortunate he lived in my area. And he, brought me in and took me under his wing. And then, Tyree, the only way I can explain it with Tyree is his wife didn't even know. He never even smartened his wife up to the business. So in me, I'm all about tradition and the way things are, So once I found out about the era, kayfabe, you always had a clue there's something, but you don't really know. And that's the mystique about it,
Right.
You don't know. To me, it's real. Where is it? I don't know. But, so, what sold me on when you're talking about strikes and stuff, I mean, to me, realism.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Realism is a big factor. I mean, I don't slap my leg. I don't do none of that shit. I'd rather you slap the shit out of me or me slap the fuck out of you. I mean, you want something out of it, but you shouldn't have to do something like that to get something over.
Yeah.
I mean, this day and age, things have evolved, different styles, people do different things. I mean, I mean, you can argue all day, but what it is, I'm not a fan of it. I don't teach it, but I get it, and that's my thing. But realism and a gimmick and being what your gimmick is, to me, that's what it's about, because, that's what turned us on.
Right.
Exactly.
That's my thing. I always tell people, the new stuff or whatever, they do great stuff. They're great athletes. It's just not what I signed up for. It was something different, when I got in.
I can't do all. I mean, at one time when I started, I could do all that shit.
Yeah, right.
Could I do it now? Yeah, I could still do it. It's just what it is.
Hey, Jimmy, you were talking about, and y'all were talking about his strikes. Let me tell you, going back to that match, there's a part in there, and I forget. I do remember, Kahagas, you telling me, hey, so I got this thing in the corner where I just rapidly start doing the chop gimmicks and all this shit. It's like rapid fire, Jimmy. And I remember back, in the back, he tells me, and I'm like, okay, great, cool. And we get out there and he starts with him, and I swear to God, I don't think you even got halfway through him. I'm like, fuck this, and I go down and just start selling.
Yeah. Well, that's funny because I tell people, I'm like, hey man, I'll tell you when to go down. You gotta let me finish my gimmick here. This is my comeback. This is all I got. This is my hope, my shine, my comeback. This is all I got. And it's the only thing I ask for in a match. I feel like some of them, if I don't tell them, they duck the fuck out, man.
Yeah, I was done with them. I
some
felt
people
I had
smart
enough.
like you just dip out anyway. Don't care.
That's the old school in me, man. I always learned, man. Especially if somebody liked to chop, like just a flare chop or whatever. I would take it, boom, and I'm either gonna go down, or go to a knee, walk to the next corner, make them chase me, that type of thing. To where I ain't got to take rapid fire shit.
Right.
Little veteran moves,
No, I hear you. It ain't, trust me, it's happened to me more than once. Not just you. Usually the smart ones, though, so I'll give you that.
So I remember when I first met you, you brought with you the NWA title, man. And I remember getting a second alone with you in the locker room. And I just walked up to you and I said, bro, you've got the one, man. Like, how does that feel? And you were like, it's still kind of surreal, man. I think Kevin Sullivan was involved in something with it. Maybe he managed you. I can't remember exactly. But the point of the matter is you talked about Kevin Sullivan. You talked about winning the title. How was that, man? How did that feel?
Dude, when you said it was surreal, those are my exact words to this day.
Yeah.
Still surreal, because I mean, when I say that, it's like I've said this a million times. I'm the guy that the title would be laying on my kitchen table, and I just walk past it all day, every day, looking at it, going, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
Like it's just I don't know.
Right.
I still feel that way. Honestly, I have to recognize what I've done to myself on a regular basis.
Right.
I mean, I guess I am somebody in this business, but
sure.
Yeah,
I have to smarten myself up to it, because I'm just, dude, I'm just a normal dude, bro. Loves wrestling, just appreciate and fortunate in a lot of things I've done. And, and I felt that I've worked hard for it. So, it's not something I went out to achieve by any means,
Right.
But hey, I'm going to take it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it was just and looking back, like, it was just such a weird era for the NWA. You had probably 6 or 7 very talented, very deserving guys who won these titles, but it was such a weird time. And I know guys like Bruce Tharp, of course, was the owner, but you had guys like Chris Ronquillo. Do you have stories about those guys at all?
Man, I mean, it was one of them things. They never gave me a hard time.
Yeah.
I mean, with their ideas and stories, it was just, or what they want, it was just kind of like, whatever, I mean, what else am I to do, And
of course. Right.
Towards the end, it just got so more aggravating for me because, things changed on a daily, it seemed. And there was a lot of negative feelings with the NWA and stuff like that, even though what all Bruce was doing. But, I think things could be handled different. I mean, I feel like Billy Corgan, was probably the best guy to get it.
Yeah.
And,
makes sense.
I mean, I don't know Billy, but, he knows about wrestling. He knows about the history and the tradition of wrestling. I don't know about the business itself so much, but, he's basically letting it bring itself back up to it with a little kick in the ass, and it seems to be doing well, And from the I haven't got a good history with a lot of the NWA. I always looked at myself as the black sheep of the NWA. And
makes sense.
Yeah, and when I say that, not in a bad way, but the guy that I don't sugarcoat shit, bro.
Yeah.
And I just say it like it is, and if it's stupid, I'll tell you it's stupid. And people don't care for that. So sometimes they just steer clear of you and let you do your thing, and that's kind of what I did with the NWA.
Yeah.
There was a lot of things that didn't equal out with the NWA and me as far as bookings and stuff, because I worked for more independent companies all day long versus I did NWA companies.
Yeah.
And those were my own bookings.
Yeah, yeah.
And, so, I mean, I traveled with the belt. I represented it wherever I went, did my thing. But
hey, let me ask you this.
It was a weird era.
Yeah, let me ask you this. Do you feel like it, and I say this only because of things that I had heard of, okay, so they're giving him this amount of money. I don't know who was paying it, and I'm not asking you to, put numbers out there. I'm just saying, do you feel like it got you any kind of heat, like with some of the boys? And not that, because like you said, a lot of it was independent stuff, and I don't know how, the shows that you did, whether you gave a fuck and whether I should even say the boys when I'm saying some of these folks. But do you feel like it got you any heat because, they felt like, oh, well, he's getting this payoff just because NWA's doing it, or however that worked? Just off the cuff there question.
I don't think so. I mean, you should work for your value,
Yeah,
and at that time I was on top, but and like I was raping people, you know what I mean?
Well, good point.
Like most people do, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
They jump all over to take advantage of it. But no, I work for a very reasonable amount. Yeah. And, because I know how it works, man. There's budgets, bro. It just is what it is, And so I did what I did, and, and I just made it work for the best I could with no help, basically.
Yeah.
And to this day, I mean, I like to mention this, is I've never gotten a return match for the national title. I've never gotten a return match for the world title. I've never gotten a return match for the North American title. And on my second reign in the national title, I still haven't gotten a return match. So what's that tell you?
Hey, you're owed a lot of matches, it sounds like. So.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but I mean, realism, yeah. In the wrestling industry, it's fans, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But things operate a little different nowadays, and but I'm, like I said, I can't complain on anything I've received out of this business or anything like that by any means. I'm just fortunate to be able to say I've done what I've done, and that's about it, bro.
I remember when I met you there and you had the title with you, and have you ever gone to like a car show and you see like old men walking around cars and they all got their hands behind their back, like they don't want to touch the car. You know what I'm saying? I remember looking at it. You had it laying there, and I was looking at it, and I specifically stuck my hands behind my back. I was like, I'm not going to touch it. It's like a car. I was like, do you mind if I take a look at it? And you were like, here, and you handed it to me, and I was like, okay, thanks. And dude, that was a trip, man, because I was just asking you. I remember asking you specifically, like, dude, that's the one, man. That's that's so huge. And you were like, yeah, I know, it's surreal. So I just, it's so funny that it's all come back to that conversation that you and I had, very brief conversation.
It's funny. I do remember handing it to you. I do.
Yeah. And I was kind of freaked out a second. I was like, holy crap. This is It's like the He-Man's power sword right here, So
I wish.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
All in all, I mean, I couldn't, like I said, dude, I couldn't be more prouder to be one of those guys, It's just
for sure.
It's an honor.
Yeah. So the Kahagas gimmick, man, I would love to hear like what interactions have you had with that gimmick? Because I mean, dude, Wolfie and I are both huge fans of the gimmick. We're big fans of gimmicks on this show anyway. But what kind of interactions has that opened the door to for you? Like as far as just your gimmick, is there anything specific that stands out? Well,
the number one thing I say is if I didn't look the way I do, I would have never had nothing I've gotten.
Okay.
And I'm a big believer in gimmicks as well. And I'm a huge believer in gimmicks and psychology. That's my two number one things, man. And when I mentioned earlier when I started training, I didn't have a gimmick or nothing. I was just Kahagas.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just an old family name. And honestly, I refuse to do a Japanese gimmick. You know, I honestly refuse to do it. And that was just because, you know, my upbringing, and, you know, I was born in Kentucky.
Right.
Okay. And then, you know, my school, there was one black kid and then there was me.
Yeah.
We got fucked with a bit, you know, so
of course,
you know, it's one of those things, you know, the bully thing. And it just, I guess you get that in your head. And, you know, when I got into business, I just didn't want to do it. And I started in probably in about a year and a half or so. Bill Brown from Florida Championship Wrestling called me, and, you know, and when I got into the business, that was one of my goals. I wanted to work for Florida Championship Wrestling. You know what I mean? I'm a Florida guy.
Right.
And, you know, that's what we're raised on and stuff like that. And, well, I got a call from him, which you don't get phone calls. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it was the last phone call I got too, by the way. But I got a phone call from Bill Brown, and, you know, he was like, hey, you know, we want to bring you in, but we need you to do a Japanese gimmick. And I'm like, fuck.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'll do it. You know, so I went and got a gi and did that, you know, and went out and started working for him a little bit. And then I got on this TV that was going on, and it had everybody on it, man. I'm talking, you know, Hector Guerrero, Barry Horowitz, Mike Enos, just a lot of old school guys and a few independent guys going on it too. And it was TV, and I did that. And I met Mark Nolte. I don't know if you recall Mark Nolte. He was a commentator. He used to do Texas as well.
Yeah, I can't.
I'm familiar with the name. Yeah.
Right. Well, he was doing commentating, and then he got my number and everything. Then the next week I went and did TV, you know, another Florida TV for Cousin Junior up in Orlando area. And then, man, the gimmick was really starting to take off. And when I realized I need to improve this. I don't like this karate gi thing, you know. I'm not a karate man, you know. And
right.
So
right.
I got the Hakama, the pants that I wear now.
Yeah.
And one advantage to that was I stopped going to the top rope.
Okay.
Because they were so big, when you step on them, it's like stepping on a dress going up the stairs. You know what I mean? So I was like, I'm working Barry Horowitz and guys like this, so I don't need to go to the top rope. You know what I mean?
Right.
But so it kind of grounded me for quite a while, and you know, and then I was just Kahagas, and I got a gi jacket, vest, and kendo stick, and next thing you know, I'm the Japanese Nightmare, and then it just elevated. You know, then I started painting my face, and I was just Kahagas, and then at one time, Hugo Savinovich contacted me.
Okay.
And wanted to go to Central America, to Panama, and I was going to work Ricky Banderas. And I was like, hell yeah, I'll go. And he goes, well, we're going to change your name. And I'm like, all right. And, you know, he goes, we're going to call you Tokyo Monster. And I'm like, okay, you know, all right, whatever. I'm going to Panama. You know, it didn't sound, you know, it sounded awkward, you know, because it's not something you're used to hearing.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I went with it anyway and went out there and did it. And I asked Hugo, this is funny, man. I asked Hugo, I said, Hugo, why are you calling me Tokyo Monster and not just Kahagas? He says, well, in Latin, there's a lot of different dialects. And when you say Kahagas in Latin, a lot of people will pronounce it as Kahaga. And I'm like, okay, well, what's that? It means shit.
Oh, God.
You hashtag Kahagas, if you do a search of hashtag Kahagas, you see me, but you're going to see a lot of people saying shit in their comments.
That's funny.
But so I just kept it, you know, the Tokyo Monster, and to me, it just added to my gimmick. And at that time, I started working with Savio as well. And the veil that I used to wear, the original veil I used to wear, that was actually Quang.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. He did a lot with me too. You know, I mean, I worked down there in Puerto Rico with the guys too, and for Carlos and for Savio and Miguelito. But you know, went on Dominican Republic a lot with those guys, same guys, Panama as well.
Yeah.
And you know, it was cool to be able to build that gimmick. And as I acquired a name, then it kind of gave me a style. And what I say by that is basically, well, if you're a monster, you got to act like a monster. You got to work like a monster.
Yeah.
You know, that's where the aggressiveness and the no nonsense and all that stuff just comes. So basically, I just built it. And I can't really do much more with it anymore, I guess. Try to get better gear every time. It's just hard to do, you know. I'll do the next one.
Oh, your gear game is on 1,000, a million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, your gear.
Well, like I said, if I didn't have that, bro, I wouldn't be on the poster.
Yeah, that makes sense, man. I get it. Yeah.
Think back, you know, when we were watching wrestling, you know, we were watching, you know, think of the gimmicks back then. I mean, the Bastion Booger or the Texas Hangman, you know, the whole 9 yards. There was a gimmick, Earthquake Typhoon. You know, it was just gimmicks.
Brody,
and that's how you remember it. Yeah, that's how you got your individuality, and that's how people remember you.
Right.
You know, if you can't do that, then they ain't going to remember you next week, but they're going to remember me 2 years from now.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I truly believe if Jamie and I had not come up with the PG-13 gimmick, with it being so unique at the time, the shorts, the tennis shoes, the hubcap, the whole nine.
Oh, and the timing was right, too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Timing's everything in this business, too. That's another part of it. You know?
Tons of suburban kids finding out about rap at that time. It was perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
You know,
Gimmicks.
Gimmicks.
That's it, man. I'm a true believer in them, man.
Me too.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Wish people nowadays would grasp more of that, you know? More of the reasons why you're doing this or you know, give them that perception of why they got to remember you, you know? I just wish they could grasp it instead of worried about going out there and having the best match of the night, you know?
Right.
Let's take a quick time out and get a word from one of my dope-ass sponsors, and we'll be right back with more Live and in Color with Wolfie D.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
Hey folks, this is Wolfie D here, and if you are looking to buy or sell a home in Tennessee or Southern Kentucky, you're going to want to call my buddy, the rock star realtor, Benji Bowie. And you say, Wolfie, how do I get in touch with this rock star? Well, you can call him directly at 615-390-8216. You can go to his website, bowiehomes.com. That's B-U-I-E homes.com. Or you can email him at benbowie34@gmail.com. When you need a home, you need the Rockstar Realtor.
Benji is a member of Exit Realty's Garden Gate team in Gallatin, Tennessee. Support for Live and in Color with Wolfie D is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped recently launched the Ultimate Men's Hygiene Bundle, the Performance Package. Join over 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code WOLFIE at manscaped.com. If my math's correct, that's about 8 million balls.
This episode is brought to you by Pepsi Wild Cherry. Pepsi Wild Cherry is bursting with delicious cherry flavor and a sweet, crisp taste that gives you more to go wild for. Getting wild may look different these days, but whether it's opting for a solo Friday binge watch or a big night out, everyone can indulge in their wild side with Pepsi Wild Cherry. Also available in Zero Sugar. So grab a Pepsi Wild Cherry and get wild.
So, like, what do you think of a guy like Luchasaurus, for example? Like, not to knock Luchasaurus, I'm not saying that. I'm just thinking, are they really doing everything they can do? Because that dude seems somewhat, like, athletic, and he's a gigantic dude. I mean, not to sit here and pick apart a TV character's gimmick, but I'm just saying, like, do you think – I just feel like sometimes – they don't take full advantage of what a true gimmick can give you. And I think that's the biggest problem.
You know what I think it is? I think a lot of it is, back in the day, if they told you you're going to wear a diaper, you're going to wear a fucking diaper.
Right, right.
Nowadays, people don't tell them what to do.
Right.
Yeah.
They don't tell them how to improve their gimmicks, or hey, we want you to be this. I mean, if you're working for somebody and you're cooking hot dogs one day and the next day he wants you cutting the onions, well, you're going to go cut the onions,
No, that's a great point. Yeah, that's a great point.
I mean, it's a job, and if they want you to do it, I mean, like me, I think he's a monster. I mean, he's a beast. I was on a show with him one time, I think up in Ohio or somewhere, and man, that's a big old cat, bro.
Yeah,
and real nice guy, man, and so athletic, and his build, he's just the whole 9 yards, but the style kind of throws me off. I think he could be used a lot better, far as like more of that monster guy, the heel, the big cane or something, I don't know, but I just see there's so much more they could do with a guy like that, get him over instead of going out and, I don't know. I mean, it's everybody's thing, and that's his thing, Lucha.
Right.
6'7" or whatever he is. That's great. I mean, he's the one that's got the job.
Right.
So,
for sure. For sure.
So I mean, but I don't think there's enough generals around anymore.
Yeah, I believe. Yeah.
And on the indie circuit, it's you got 1 out of 100.
Yeah, for sure.
You used to have maybe 1 or 2 on every show, and now it's 1 out of 100. That's kind of scary, So
man. It's and you go to work for other companies, and you're just like, man, this could be just so much better if.
Right.
And I booked for Thunder Championship Wrestling down here in Florida, and we do it all. I mean, it's no joke. I run it the way I would fucking run it, and it's. Do what the fuck I tell you, dude. It just is what it is. And we're not, and that's the thing. We're not there to have the match of the night.
Yeah.
We're there to have a good show so we can have another one.
Right.
So, and that's my whole idea. It's not about us.
Yeah.
It's about getting the fans back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then when it works that way, it's all about everybody.
Yeah.
And people just don't get it, man. There's too many. I don't know. It's like the word of the last decade or 5 years is everybody feels entitled.
Oh yeah,
completely.
And they're soft as shit. I mean, that's their biggest problem.
Yes, sir.
Completely.
Very much.
And no one's on. And here I'll add to this one. The majority of them aren't honest with themselves.
No, hell no. Oh, sir. And others don't want to be honest with them because then you might hurt someone's feelings.
Yeah.
Well, it's a buddy system too,
Right.
Yeah, I don't play the buddy system. I mean, when it comes to business, I just don't do that. Yeah. I was the guy. I mean, I'd fire my grandma.
And don't ask me unless you really want my opinion. Don't ask me to watch your match.
Right. That's a whole other thing.
Talking about that, I go to some of these companies around, like Proven Ground with WWE and FIP and stuff. There's a lot of young guys up and coming there, brand new guys. And it kills me when they come up to me after the match and say, "Hey, did you watch my match?" It's like, and then I tell them, I'm like, "No, but if you ask me, I would, but I would prefer you come and ask me about your match before you do it because I'd rather tell you what could help you versus telling you everything you already did wrong."
Right.
No one wants to walk up and say, "Hey, what do you think? Hey, can I ask you a question?" I used to do it. Shit, I do it now.
Right.
Yeah.
If I'm confused, I'll ask somebody. I don't care.
Right.
And it's just one of them things that people are different, man.
Yes, they are.
Yeah. Well, I noticed when I was doing research for you, Kahagas, I noticed that it says kind of across the board, Hector Guerrero, Prince Iaukea, John Tenta. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, Tom Horn and Tyree Pride, we've already talked about them a little bit, but, how does Hector and Prince Iaukea and John, how do they tie into your upbringing?
Well, Hector ties into with Tyree, back in that day.
Okay.
And, when you kind of, I guess when you kind of get accepted by one guy like that,
mm-hmm.
the other guys you have a better chance of other guys accepting you as well.
Okay.
And, the old timers like that, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
You're a new guy, but this guy's putting you over. He's my boy. I guess you are all right. It's the same deal.
Mm.
And I think that really helped with just the people that I was around, and, a lot of influence. But Hector, I trained with Hector. Hector was a big mentor to me, man. And I worked Hector numerous times, and he's just such a great dude. And then with the Prince Iaukea, I started going to John Tenna's, later on once I got going. And John Tenna had opened up a school up there in Orlando, and so I was making a 3-hour. 6-hour total round trip twice a week up there. And, and in between that, I was going to Winter Haven to a school and training where we are here, and I was constantly wrestling, trying to train, trying to get in the ring. And so I was up there. We trained with Tenna for quite a while. And then Prince was, he was one of his trainers.
Mm-hmm.
And Prince just kind of took a liking to me, and he would drive all the way down here to where I live, 3 hours away, just to come train with me like once or twice a week.
Wow.
And,
wow.
So, to me, I learned so much from him, man, and people like that, I get somebody like Tyree Pride to train me, was trained by the great Malenko. Then you're dealing with the Hector Guerrero with the Guerrero family, and then dealing with Prince Iaukea, was trained with, Kevin Sullivan and William Regal and the Malenkos, and just so many different flavors of people I've worked with, that were trained by so many other legends that, you kind of, you suck it all in. At least that's what I do. I sucked it all in.
Right.
Yeah.
And, so that was one thing that really, I get more out of it, is the respect that I've gotten from, I don't even call them peers, because to me they're above that, but the pillars that, gave us all a reason, and Prince was one of them as well, so really? With Prince, the selling aspect with Prince was just, that's where I learned to sell, bro, from that guy.
Yeah.
And, it's one of them things. And throughout the years, I could throw plenty of people out there that's done so much for me, Hagmeyer, Dave Johnson, the Blackheart, all those kind of guys were, those were my road buddies, but those were my mentors too. Those were my best friends, but they were my mentors. They're the ones that told me, do this, you're going to get this, you're going to get it, you're going to get it, you're going to get it,
Yeah.
And when I did, I got it,
Right.
and so there's just so many people that influenced me, just in the beginning of the business to go and ain't nothing I can complain about.
Yeah. Yeah.
One thing I'll say though is, originally when I got into the business, I told you how we trained, stuff like that. It didn't feel like we were being trained right. We didn't know.
Yeah.
And we weren't out of school or nothing. And so when we got into this for quite a few years, we never discussed where we trained, how we trained, or anything like that, just because it felt like it wasn't right. Like we weren't trained properly. I don't know, and then nowadays, when I look back at it, I'm glad I got trained that way.
Right.
Because I did, I'll never forget the day that Tom Horn walked up there. It was just me and him, man. He come walking up out of the Grove, and he just says, "Hey man, come here." This dude's like corn fed, bro, like 280 pounds, just a monster. He's like one of them old school guys, and he says, "Come here, man. Let me try something on you. I ain't done this in quite a while." and he said, "Lay down." So I laid down, and I said, "What are you gonna do?" He goes, "I'm gonna put a little sugar hold on you." I said, "All right, bro. Let me tell you something. I have never in my life felt that way when he put me in that thing. I screamed so much. I couldn't stop screaming. I was just like, what the fuck? Well, I guess I just got stretched. What happened?
Yeah.
But I'll never forget that, dude. I was just me and him in the Orange Grove, beat ass son, and I'm just screaming like, God, dude. Brutal, bro.
Hey, so
let me tell
you said you were born in Kentucky. What part of Kentucky?
I was born in Kenton, and I was raised until, my early, up until probably I was about 9 or 10 up in Florence, Boone County, Cincinnati area.
Okay. All right. Because, I moved to Kentucky. I live in Somerset now, but I was just curious. So what wrestling did you grow up on?
I seen my first wrestling in Kentucky.
Uh-huh.
And I remember it was Florida wrestling. It was Dusty Rhodes versus Harley Race. And,
nice.
Then I just come across it, and blood everywhere, you're like, what the fuck is this? Your parents ain't home or ain't in the room and you're watching it, and then I recall like running into wrestling again maybe a few weeks later, when I was that young. But that was probably my only, experience with wrestling on TV when I was young. But when I moved to Florida, it was just like I was watching it every day when you had Georgia Championship Wrestling.
Right.
Ronnie Garvin and Jake Roberts wrestling every night,
There you go. There you go.
So I just loved wrestling, bro, and it was something I watched on a regular basis, just like any of us, and then that came that day in time that it was like, well, one day I'm going to wish I tried it if I don't, and I tried it, and boy, I fuck up.
So going back to also like your NWA run, and besides the Matt Classic that you had with me, who were some of the like who did you have your best matches with as far as that goes?
The Conway match, when I dropped the belt to Conway.
Mm-hmm. But that was
always sticks out. Always sticks out. It was just good. It was, to me, it was everything a match needed to be.
Yeah.
And that one, I would have to say that's probably one of my favorites, is dropping the belt to Conway. But not for that reason,
Right.
But,
he could
other
go.
than that, oh, yeah. He could go. And then there was a guy by the name of Byron.
Texas?
Guy named Byron. Yes.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
Yeah, I've worked him, and as a person, he is who he is, but it's one of those things when you get in the ring, it's just like the chemistry is just there.
Yeah.
And, it's just like we just gel, even though, it was good. So me and his matches, to me, stick out quite a bit, too.
Cool.
But definitely Conway, I'd say number one.
Yeah.
Man, I'm still sore. I never got to manage you against Josephus Brody. And how perfect would that have been? A Gary Hart knockoff, a Bruiser Brody knockoff, and the closest thing we've got to the great Muda. That would have been amazing. So,
when you say that, the Muda thing, of course, I've always heard, I love Muda. Yeah, I like him, dude. That ain't why I look like this. I was a fan of Kendo Nagasaki.
Yeah.
That was my guy. Of course, I knew of all the others, but and that's why I carry a kendo stick, is because of Kendo Nagasaki. And actually, when I first started doing that gimmick, when I started doing the TV, I'd do promos in a full kendo body armor. But I'm not trying to emulate anybody. It's just something that came along.
No, that's just me talking. That's just me.
No,
talking.
I get no, I get it, but I get a lot of it. A lot of
I'm
people
sure you
feel
do.
that I'm emulating Muda when it's like, no, I'm not. I don't spit the green shit. I suck at it. It's one of those things.
So you did
my
try it.
Different. Everything's different.
Right.
You don't work like Muda did.
Yeah.
No. So that's just a look. That's all it is.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and everybody, it seems like that is any kind of close to Japanese now. Even then, it's like they all spit mist, man. It's like everybody. I see it all the time.
Yeah.
I don't like it. It's messy.
So have you?
I suck at it.
Did you try to do it for a while?
I've had companies, they had me spit it, but then it just kind of, we steered away, because I didn't like doing it, and it's just one of them things. I said, how about I just hit him with a kendo stick? Like, oh, okay. and I didn't want to be that guy that was trying to be like Muda.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Because once you look the way I do and you spit green shit, you're Muda.
You're Muda. Yeah, great point. Yeah.
And I'm going to be honest, man, and maybe you know this. I'm going to show how the fucking not smart I am in this area. I never, to this day, really understood how he did that. Was he keeping it in his fingers, and then sometimes he would change colors? How the fuck did he do that shit? Because I don't know.
I thought he had a tube implanted in him. That's what Joel Deaton told us. So.
I don't know, man. I mean, condoms.
Yeah.
Little condoms, just little ones, and I don't know. I didn't get into it as much,
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yes, I've stuck a condom in my mouth a few times. Yes.
It reminds me of Ricky Morton.
Unlubricated.
He's great at the little one. And Ricky would always say, if I suck the dick with a condom on it, does it make you gay? And you'd say, I don't know. He goes, well, it didn't make me. There's a barrier there.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh,
so what do you say about that, right?
We're coming close on our time here. So you're still actively working pretty much?
Yeah.
So awesome. Where do people find you? Where would the fans find you for merch? Where would promoters find you to book you?
Well, I mean, you can contact me at, bookTokyoMonster@gmail.com. Find me on Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah.
I'm not hard to find, man. It's just, interested. I'm around, bro. But I work, I'm working. I got GrappleCon coming up in April, which is Barry Rose that was running a CWF Fan Fest for a while. He went out. He's got something going on at GrappleCon. I'll be at the SICW Fan Fest, St. Louis Hall of Fame convention. We got a show this weekend on Friday at Thunder Championship Wrestling.
Cool.
I'll be, I'm working with Old School Championship Wrestling in South Carolina. I mean, there's a few, I'm just, whatever, I'll take them as they come,
Yeah.
One of the things,
Let me say this real quick. Out of all the people we've talked to Jerry Lawler, we've talked to Ricky Morton, we've talked to some of the all-time greats, Hall of Famers. I will say this. It's maybe just the interaction of how you treated me when I first met you, but bro, I've always been a fan of you since the second we met, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I've always pulled for you. I've always felt like you were one of those guys that if somebody would just give you a hot second chance, I feel like you would take full advantage of it. And I've pulled for you from the second we met, man, because I was like, dude, I like this guy. I think his strikes and kicks are on par with almost anybody in the business ever. And when I mean that, and then the look, dude, the look is just money. And you've always kept yourself in shape. So from the bottom of my heart, I have been pulling for you, and you didn't know this, but I've been pulling from you from the second that we met, man. So I appreciate you and appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with us, dude. Seriously.
I appreciate that too, man. And, anybody else that feels the same way or anything's had my back, I just look at it as I'm no different than nobody else. We're all in the same locker room.
Right.
And we're all here for the same reason, for the love of the business. And, I don't think myself's better than nobody else. I'm just a little bit smarter, And I tell people all the time, from day one, if you ever met me when I first started in the business, I'm the same guy that I am today. I'm just smarter.
Sure.
Yeah. That's about it,
Work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
That's it, man.
That especially applies in wrestling, does it not?
Oh, yeah. So,
but yeah, man, we do
it's all
appreciate
good,
you. We appreciate you being on here. And I mean, I didn't know how to track you down at first, man. I kept seeing you had a page, and I don't know if I messaged it before or whatever, but yeah, I've been trying to get you on here for a minute. I just didn't know how to get in touch with you, and I'm glad we were able to connect, man. And, you know, like Jimmy said there, I appreciate because when I met you, we were going to the ring against each other, and we went out there, and I thought had a hell of a match. And
the same thing with your buddy Gary. I just worked out in Texas a few months back.
Well, Gary. Yeah, man.
Yeah, I worked your buddy Gary out there, and he was like, "Hey, man, we met." And I'm like, just like Jimmy here. I'm sorry, bro. I remember Wolfie.
Oh, Gary, man, he ended up. He was a SWAT cop for a minute, man. Then he got out of it.
Get out of here.
Yeah, because me and him, we did the tag team thing out there for what's his name, Matt Riviera, his little promotion he had at TCW.
Right.
And I love Gary. And then he got out of the business, and the next time I talked to him, he was like, "Yeah, man, I'm a SWAT cop, a SWAT cop." And I was like, "What?" I thought that was cool. But he got out for something. I don't know if it was when I say too much for him, I don't mean like it overwhelmed him, but I think some of the inner workings of it he didn't care for or something. I don't know, man, but that's for him to tell, not me. But again, man, appreciate you coming on, and man, maybe we can do it again sometime, and keep in touch and all that good stuff, man. We appreciate you. I hope for the best for you. I know Jimmy just told you he does too. So
absolutely.
We appreciate you, man. And Jimmy, let's take a break and let's come back with Ask Wolfie D Anything.
All right, if you say so. Thank you,
man.
It's all good, bro. I appreciate you guys, man. It was good.
Yeah, man.
All right, guys.
Thanks, man. DJ, hit the music. All right, we are back with Ask Wolfie D Anything, and once again, the Tokyo Monster Kahagas. He's awesome, man. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, great interview, man. I enjoyed talking to these guys, man. Especially, I promise you, I haven't talked to that guy since that match 12 years ago. So that's pretty cool, man. Pretty cool to us to be able to talk about the match too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Very cool. Yeah. And I mean, y'all had a great match, and plus, the band playing, it was just magical. Yeah. The only thing that I think should have happened is Wolfie should have had an NWA title run at some point.
Should have went over.
That's just maybe not even in that match, but maybe so. Who knows? But anyway,
I know there was talks about it, but I wasn't in talks with them, but
right.
Like Kroll and some of them, were, well, they might be doing it. I don't know. So
right.
Who knows what was really going on?
Exactly. Who knows if there was even a shot?
But it would have been good had they have done it.
Yeah, it is a natural fit, and I think you are one of those guys for sure. So, all right, well, we're going to start off hot on this one. This one I've been holding off for a little bit, but I say let's go ahead and ask it. So Larry Cox from Facebook asks a very funny question. He says, let's talk about the time Jamie traded his tag belt for crack. Can you shed any light on that one?
Well, see, the story goes a couple of different ways. I thought it was pawned it. Then the other one was gave it to somebody that was a, person that supplied that type of thing.
Sure.
So I'm not really sure 100% what that story is. I think it's more because somebody else told us, I think that was on here. It was like, then Lawler went to the pawn shop, and I can't see that either. But yeah, I'm pretty sure he let somebody hold it as collateral at one time. I'm pretty sure about that.
Gotcha. But was able to get it back in some form or fashion.
I think so, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I know that
possibly could have had to have went, hey, I got to get this belt back. If y'all want it back, you better give me $100 or, whatever it was. I don't know. I could see it going about 1,000 different directions.
Right. I've heard the story that it was pawned, and then he was like, okay, I got to go pick it up with this. He pawned it for money and then got it back, but whatever. But hey, not an ideal situation, especially if you're the tag champions with him. No. So
there was a Puerto Rico story that, again, it's one of those things you don't know the complete thing, but I feel like Billy Travis, it might have been Billy, could have been somebody else, but like traded a damn rent-a-car in Puerto Rico for some shit. It was like, Lord have mercy.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. So we don't have a definitive answer on it, but we feel like we've got somewhere in the vicinity of
ask Jamie.
Yeah. Ask Jamie. I'm sure he'll tell you very well. So, yeah. All right. Well, the second question is from Marty Confetti at I Broke Wahoo's Egg.
Yeah.
He's asked a few questions lately. We appreciate it. He says, memories of being managed by Sue Young on a Burt Prentice house show. This was the time that I believe she was friends with Jerry Lawler.
Yeah, I think they were friends. I think they made some towns together. Not sure the whole relationship there. I know what I've heard.
Sure.
I wasn't there. I hadn't seen anything with my own two eyes. And, you know what they say in the wrestling business, believe none of what you hear and only half of what you see.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I do probably remember her going to the ring with me or something. I can't say that it stood out in any reason other than, just another match. Who knows? I don't know who I wrestled. Maybe it was Lawler. I don't remember. Maybe if he'll elaborate on that question, I know more. Y'all know my memory ain't the best, so you really got to help me out sometimes.
Right, of course. But
I always was a fan of hers.
Yeah, totally. Great gimmick, great worker, Yeah. So, yeah, she should have been in the WWE, in my opinion, Eventually, who knows, right? But anyway, very cool gimmick and very cool person. She went out of her way to wish you happy birthday. Actually, really went out of her way. I promise. Yeah. She went through our podcast app, which is almost unheard of. We've tried to get people to do it, and they never did it. And here comes Sue Young, and I was like, hold on, how does this work? How do I get access to this? Because this was interesting. But anyway, so yeah, very cool, and we appreciate you, Sue. So thanks for that question. Very cool question. So the third and final question kind of fits because of you, actually, what we've talked about today with Kahagas. It's Kyle Vaughn on Facebook, and he asked this question. He says, how was Saw available to stay afloat for so long? They mainly ran in Millersville in a building that sat 100 people at best, and I feel like I'm being generous. They always brought in solid talent. I think the local fans took that promotion for granted. To me, Saw is the last good local promotion that we had.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, I'm not sure TJ had the building, so the overhead was not much. He could leave everything in there. You didn't have to set it back up and all that. So again, your overhead was pretty low.
Right.
As far as paying talent, I think they might have had a few different people that helped out on that. I'm not positive. And it's not like even for somebody like me, but I lived there, the pay wasn't great, but it was also the TV show looked decent. And on TV, that small crowd didn't look awful,
Right.
It did when they wouldn't show up sometimes, but if you packed them in there, and they were usually pretty responsive, and the set looked good, and you had some decent talent there. So yeah, and there was high spots and low spots of it depending on who was working and who was booking, and you know how that goes up and down,
Yeah, definitely. And I do believe, the consistency of the talent that they had there, mm-hmm. even though they brought in, they had regular name talent there, mm-hmm. there was a consistency with bringing in bigger names to salt the stew, I guess. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. To spice it up a little bit. And, you were definitely one of those guys. I think there were several other guys. We talked to one of them today, especially when they had their NWA relationship. But that's the one thing I think about TJ is that he did work really hard to find that building. And then when he found that building, it was the perfect spot for it because it really was studio wrestling. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But anyway, we asked Kroll to answer this question, and here he is right now to tell you his side.
I'd say the reason it grew like it did is because TJ had good friends that he could depend on to prop him up. Not saying that he couldn't do it on his own, but he had me, and at the end he had Mike Searcy, had Reno Riggins, and even Paul Adams. I mean, it takes a team to run a promotion,
right?
You know, and I was kind of the glue that brought all that together because, like I said, Reno and Paul never really got along with TJ, you know, because they butted heads on, you know, just, you know, little silly shit for, you know, just show related. But, you know, like I just said, the deal with TJ and Reno, when Reno would come in and tape every other Friday, he would pay half the cost of the talent. So, you know, that's, and basically, you know, the thing that benefited TJ from having Reno and me there doing TV is it brought a quality talent on top of the good talent he already had. And plus at half the cost of what it would have cost TJ to run, you know, because like when you got Kid Cash and a lot of guys like that, Chase and, you know, the Rob Conways and all the high dollar talent, you know, you go from like a $500-$600 payroll to a $1,200-$1,500 payroll easily.
Yeah. Okay.
You know,
gotcha. Yeah. No, that makes sense.
You know, but yeah, for about 3 years there, Saul was an unbeatable. You know, I mean, from top to bottom, it was about as polished as it ever was going to be. And then when I went back on my own with TJ, from 2012 until he passed away, up until we shut it down in March of 2015. So for the last 3 years we were there, I think was probably some of the best stuff we done because I went back in there and redid all the lights and added a bunch of stuff to it. And I think it's the best it looked on TV the last 3 years we were there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it looked great.
I'll tell you another reason I think it stayed alone so well and it drew so well, not to take away from what Kroll said, because everything he said, I would have 100% said. It takes a solid team, you know, working that production to make that show work.
Yeah.
But I mean, my dad wasn't afraid to get out and do the groundwork. I remember several times we'd be out in, you know, the Rivergate area, just the surrounding area of Millersville, flyering cars.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And promoting. He knew how that old school, you know, mentality to get out and promote. Especially on them big shows we'd definitely be out there. I remember getting ran off several times by like mall security and stuff. Hey, we just hurry up and flyer and get out of there.
Yeah.
You know, another thing that probably was good about TJ, but probably hurt him in a way too, is, you know, like your little mom and pop stores growing up, they would let people have a charge account, you know, to charge stuff until they got paid. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
TJ did that with certain people too. If they couldn't afford to come to the show, he'd be like, "Why didn't you at the show?" "Oh, we couldn't." "Well, come on in." You know, he would let people charge or give them deals and stuff. And then when they owed you money, they would, you know, so that was a double-edged sword for him. But you got to give it to him. You know, he would do whatever he could to, you know, accommodate people and make them want to come. You know.
Oh yeah. All right. Thank you, Kroll. That was a great answer to that question, and it definitely solidified what Wolfie D just said. So thank you for that.
So you've actually got him saying it?
I did. I asked that question to him. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, thanks, Kroll, for that answer, and appreciate it. It doesn't veer too far from what Wolfie D said, so it makes total sense.
See, even when I don't know, I just have those feelings. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, you say this all the time, but you know what time it is, right?
Yeah, I know what time it is.
Yeah. Well, but anyway, that's all we got today. Thank you, Kyle Vaughn. Appreciate that question.
And I definitely know what time it is now. It's time for us to get off of here.
It's time for it to be over with.
Yes, it sure is. And once again, we appreciate everybody tuning in, and hopefully we'll have something good for you again next week.
And now a word from our sponsor.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling, the podcast that's based on the old school but can still help you find the good stuff from today. Jimmy Street and the Plastic Sheik, Jared, are the undisputed tag team champions of the wrestling podcast world. From thought-provoking topics to superstar interviews to action figure expertise. This team does it all. And all they ask is, give me back my pro wrestling! Every other Thursday, wherever you listen to podcasts.
This is Kroll, and you're listening to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling with Jimmy Street and Jared the Plastic Sheik. Be sure to like, subscribe, and view all of our USWO and Saw Wrestling content at Nashville Wrestling Network, exclusively on YouTube.
That's right, it's the talk of Middle Tennessee, the channel you love to hate and the channel you hate to love. It's Brian Turner from Brian Turner's VHS Rehab. And if you're looking for matches from Wolfie D to Jerry Lawler to Dusty Rhodes and the team that put a pimp before your eyes and a goatee between your thighs, Booty Call and Athena, go to lostwrestling.com. See, I made it easy for you. Brian Turner's VHS Rehab. Booyah.
Join me, Gene Jackson, for the Jackson Interaction Podcast, where I'll be doing one-on-one interviews with people from the world of professional wrestling, as well as stand-up comedy. You can get them anywhere podcasts are available in both video and audio form, but you can find them all at genejacksonpod.com.
So that was another great episode. Hey, Wolfie, tell them where they can find you on social media.
Jimmy, they can find me in the club, bottle full of bub. I'm just kidding. They can find me on Facebook. My personal page is Warren Wolf, WOLFE. I'm on Instagram at WarrenWolf13.
You can always find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Live Wolfie D. Here's the thing. Wolfie always has offers for his autographed photos. He has a selection of some awesome photos from throughout his career that he will autograph and personalize any way that you want him to. Just contact him either directly at his personal Facebook page or through any one of our other pages, and we'll make sure you get in contact directly with Wolfie. Get those photos, right, Wolfie?
Yeah, I've got some good stuff on there, to help with the podcast.
Folks, if you can't get out to a show to meet Wolfie D, there's nothing like that, especially for the fans of PG-13 and Wolfie D. And before we go, you can always find me, your host, Jimmy Street, at James Rock Street on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube.
And hey, Jimmy, before we go real quick, I just want to add in there, from the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate, first of all, the work you've done for this podcast. You have worked your butt off. Secondly, the people that are liking the page. Beyond that, even more, is the people that are listening, and we really appreciate that.
Yeah, and remember, guys, the podcast drops a new episode every Monday at noon, and our past episodes are streaming now on demand on all major podcast formats. Thanks again.
I got a cap for your dome.
He got a cap for your dome.
I got a cap for your dome.
He got a cap for your dome.
He
got a cap for your dome.
And here we go. The original white boy that came out sagging, not bragging, don't be hating, cause I'm spitting the truth. Still livin' in color, from rush your mother, utilize a hubcap, unlike any other. Back in the day, I was N-O-D, and I was P to the G, plus the 1 and the 3. In case you forgot, they call me Wolfie D. Been cloned and copied so many times, tired of suckers taking credit for what is mine. You know who you are without me name dropping. Wrestling's first white boy coming out hip hopping. Been doing it like this since '92. Laid low for a while and you thought I was through. Listen real close to these rhymes that I've injected. This shit's so sick it makes your ears get infected. Mad skills, no faking, there is no one great. Cause I'm bringing more folks and Obi-Wan for later. Not here to play games, so you better beware. You don't like me, so what? I really don't care. Like time I keep ticking and I can't be stopped. You sucker step to the side unless you wanna get dropped. With my finish, I'll straight knock you out. Please allow me to tell you what it's all about. I'm gonna wind it up, then I'm driving it home. It's Wolfie D, baby. I got a cap for your dome. I got a cap for your dome.
He got a cap for your dome. He got a cap for your dome.
This has been a James Rock Street production.